Captain on the bridge.
Alright, captains, we are back on the bridge, and today we are going to go over Star Trek Strange New Worlds Episode 9, titled All Those Who Wander. All I can say is I was not prepared for this episode at all. Now, we saw the trailer leading up to this episode, and we kind of knew that it was going to be some sort of suspense-ish type, maybe thriller, but after watching it, and yeah, the Triz was not prepared. The Triz feels was not prepared. So what we're gonna do is go over the screenshots that I took, drop my 2 ECs, and then at the end give my conclusions, and then try to rank it. I'm not sure, captains, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. So here we go, though. We'll start on screen. So all these episodes start off with this sort of intro of the Enterprise flying. I always love that. So just thought I would throw that there. And then it starts with a recap, and I do kind of appreciate that. Now, the recap, actually, some of the things that I noted here was with Hemmer saying to fix what is broken was his purpose. And that's going to play a part. And also Spock kissing Chapel, which was a good moment, I thought. I really thought it was a good moment. And for the most part, if you're just jumping into the episode, and because they're so self-contained, you can do so, but then, of course, what has been happening is it's been kind of tying from the beginning to end, and I love it. How they're tying off things here, I love it. And again, Triz was not prepared 100% for this. So we start off with Uhura doing a personal log, saying that it's her last mission on the Enterprise, deliver some power cells to K7, and then it's back to Earth because she misses her grandma. Now, it's a crew getting together right now, and they're just sort of celebrating something. But again, it is here we find out what they'll be celebrating. And you see some of the officers here in the dining room, smiling here, but in this shot, Captain Pike was actually saying their goodbye to Uhura and Chia, which is the officer in the middle there. Officer Chia and Uhura for completing their training here. So I thought, again, these lighthearted moments I do quite enjoy, but I feel always that there's like this connection with this crew regardless of who comes on, and it's just so great. It's just so great. Now, these two officers will play a part here, and this is apparently Ensign Duke, but they do play a part in this episode as we go along. Now, Ensign Duke gets called up front and center. Captain Pike, he is now being promoted to lieutenant, and there you have Una presenting like a comm badge, I guess. It looks like some sort of stripe that he's going to be wearing, or some sort. It looks like a karate belt. But again, here in this episode, we see everyone. We see everyone in this episode, and I appreciate it. I really do, especially here in the last home stretch here. This is episode 9. There's one more episode after this, so. And then kind of you see her kind of backing off of this, and Ortega's kind of goes up to her, saying, hey, join the party and all that stuff. And I've always appreciated the interaction with Ortegas and her, especially the first time when she played a practical joke on Uhura. That was pretty awesome. But we get some Ortegas here too as well, and wow, yeah, there's Ortega. So now, of course, Pike comes in, hopefully saying to her, hopefully she stays, but no, she's not staying. So again, I like that. I've always said this, the tone that Pike sets is always there when it comes to the scenes, to his crew, everything. He really is setting the tone. And the other thing to note here, captains, Pike's peak, it's getting higher. Someone noted this on my stream, saying that Pike's peak has gotten higher, which is true, which is hilarious. If you actually watch it from Discovery to now, it's there. But I thought we'd point that out because we thought it was really cool. So now they're all in the quarters now because Spock actually called Pike, and there is a priority 1 message or a urgent mission to go to, and they're all here. Pike's cleaning, and this is just a shot that I took. Pike says, well, we can do 2 things at once, briefing and cleaning up. And of course, to talk more, he actually gives his robe that he was wearing to Spock, which I thought was good. But Spock, before that, handed La'an, who wasn't there at the party because she actually requested some personal leave, but she's in there. It's kind of eating there, and she kind of loves to eat, so that's a thing. Now, the mission is to see what happened to this ship here, the USS Peregrine. So as we can see there, it's actually a sort of Constitution-looking ship, but M'Benga actually said it was a ship that was really, I've never heard before, and it was Somber class, which was weird, but sure. But this is just the bridge crew just kind of talking about what they have to do here. They've lost contact. They got to see what's going on. Now, here is where the problem is. Their mission is to deliver some power cells to K7, and of course, the K7 needs that first. So the recommendation here from our good friend La'an, which, captains, you know, I've had an up and down relationship. I will say this right now. I loved La'an in this episode. I really did. Even when she was being sort of very aggressive, I loved it. And here it's just a lighthearted moment. But her suggestion is to split up. Some of the crew take some shittles, yes, some shittles, down to the planet where the Peregrine is, and then the rest of the crew, the Una, will stay behind, Ortegas as well, take the Enterprise, go to K7, and then rendezvous back with them. So that is the plan. Now, we see them going down to the planet in the shuttles. It was kind of a cool scene. But now we've seen this already background before in some of the trailers, and there is the Somber class of Peregrine. It's crashed. Apparently, M'Benga said something in the briefing there that it can land. I did not know that the Constitution can land fully. Now, if it crashed, that's fine, but I know the saucer should separate because of those sort of arrows underneath. The saucers land, you kind of work as landing gear, but this is the whole ship itself. So we can see there, alien looking. I got like Superman vibes. Like, do you captains, if you watch that movie where, can't remember the actor's name, but Luthor threw a kryptonite in the ocean and just spawned this huge mass land. This is kind of the vibes I get from. I get a lot of vibes from this movie from other things, but that's okay. There they are. They land on the planet here. We see Uhura shivering and Hemmer smiling. Hemmer, and he just says, "Just like an Doria." And I thought that was really cool that they were kind of bringing him back there because we were missing him from the 6 and 7, but we got him back in 8. Now he's here in 9. And captains, you know, I've always loved Hemmer's character just because how weighted his presence feels, and is no different here. His joy, just the way he interacts with the crew, his sort of demeanor. I loved how Bruce, the actor, portrayed Hemmer, and is really up there with one of my favorite Star Trek characters. And not just because we had him on the bridge. Well, maybe. Well, I don't know. No bias. What? So everyone's cold. Now we also see the return of Sam. Sam Kirk's here. And the goggles. They have goggles, and apparently when they were showing previews of this, they were showing on Twitter also the original crew, the Cage crew, wearing these goggles, and sure, why not, you know, but they're back in their jackets there, their cool little Arctic jacket. You see their Duke there. Thought that was cool to bring him back there. He plays a little part here. It felt kind of odd though, but I know the purpose it sort of served, at least in my mind. Another shot there of them heading towards the ship. They're gonna all go in there, and you see the 2 shittles there. Love the shittles, captains. You know I love the shittles. But this planet has a lot of interference, so it's going to interfere with a lot of their instruments. So they really are just kind of almost going in blind. Of course, they're walking there towards the ship. There's just a shot of that. Again, we saw that in one of the trailers. I thought that was cool, and I'll speak to this later as we go on, but it made sense, and it works why they picked a Constitution class to crash on a planet. It really did make sense to me, at least. Now, of course, La'an finds some blood, but not just blood, captains. That's an arm. This I was not prepared for. Like, what? Like, I was not prepared for that. So La'an finds a severed arm, and it looks like fresh blood, which is really, it already set the tone. And I will say the music of this episode set the tone perfectly. Just like I said in my last review video of the Elysian Kingdom, how the music was playing a part in setting the mood, the tone, this definitely did. And I will say that for the most part of this episode, the hairs on the back of my neck were rising. I was shaking. I was in awe. All whatever facial expressions I can make, I made during this episode. All of it. It speaks to how good this episode was to me. So now they get in the ship. Of course, Pike is there. Now again, just accessing a panel here. You see the Paragon there. Again, just display, but you see the blood. Blood is there. So situation is right now, all the power is routed to engineering, which to Hammer makes sense. So their mission is to restore power functionality to the ship. That's what they're going to go for. And again, the lines of Hammer were just so on point. I enjoyed it. I really did. And it was really nice to see him shine here. Of course, he's talking to the crew there, talking to Spock there. Just another, again, shot. I'm really glad that we had an opportunity to talk to Bruce, because it actually gives me more of an appreciation for this character. Not to say that I don't like, I still have my captain crush on Pike. Don't get me wrong, captains, I do. But I really mean what I said, and I said it before, even when we interviewed Bruce. His lines in every scene, it just has so much meaning. So he's going to go to engineering. Of course, Lan's coming in there. They're all kind of just assessing the situation. They found like 20 bodies, and Pike said that there was like 99 the crew. So they're just all dismembered, and Mbenga's like saying maybe they tried to go out, they got lost, and they just couldn't find their way back to the ship because they just died of hypothermia. Then, of course, like I said, they found bodies. They actually found the comm badge of the captain as well. So then here's a shot here. Now you had Sam here, Duke. I believe it was Spock as well, and Chapel here, who found another bloody mess here. Just another bloody mess of just absolute. It was Chia who found this, actually, the Ensign Chia there. One of the officers who finished their training with Uhura. And it again, setting the tone, it was really good. The music, the actors, they all did their part to just really convey. And again, once again, got me engaged, so much so that Triz was shaking in his rocking chair. What? So now, back on the ship, they're listening to the captain's log. Essentially, what had happened was they picked up some crew that it was a human girl, an Orion named Pasco. Apparently, something that when they picked them up, the systems, like the biofilter, did not pick up that the girl had actually Gorn eggs. Yes, Gorn eggs. Now, this is probably my sort of, and yes, the ship did crash. This is why she's making this log here. I've never heard of Gorn eggs. I didn't watch a lot of TOS. Captains, you know that already. So I didn't know about these things. And I'm probably going to poke fun of this in the thumbnail, but regardless, it's weird. But I said this before, I like how they made the Gorn sort of a threat here. And I think they did a really good job, especially from how we first saw TOS, I'm sorry. But yes, so apparently, again, the Orion was Pasco. The girl was infected with the Gorn eggs, and that Orion set off a plasma grenade to try to just stop this, because Gorn eggs is not good. Okay, Gorn eggs is not good, and the log kind of ends off with, if she could just warn Starfleet not to come to the planet. And it really did sort of set a tone. again, of how sort of grim the situation is. So, of course, her there scanning, she sees two life forms. She finds two life forms, one humanoid, one unknown. So Pike and Uhura and La'an, they go searching, and of course they find more bodies in the ship. Throughout the ship there, they see a bright light there and something moving in there. So they go and move in, and we now see our new friend, an alien. Now, I thought this was cool. The staff thing, sure. To me, it looked like I hate to say this, and it just looked like almost like an alien that you've seen before in some other franchise. I'm not going to name it. I almost did, but that is kind of what I'm seeing. Anyways, this is the line. Also, La'an says, "Her do something," because the alien was speaking and the communicators were not being able to translate it, so it was just gobbledygook to them. And then Uhura does say, well, that's not how linguistics works. So her recommendation was to put the weapons down, and then she was saying, hey, we're here to help you and your whoever. So that is then when they get led by the alien to the girl, and that's what the glowing light was. They're in a fire there, little bonfire there in whatever room this is. That is her. Now goes to scene with Spock and Chapel. Again, the building between these two leading up to this episode was, I get it. It just, everything is just connecting, and I love how things are just falling into place. But good Lieutenant Duke there apparently burned himself, but you can see the blood spatter here. So they're just, he's asking for Nurse Chapel for some medical treatment stuff so that can help Lieutenant Duke there. Now, so the team split up. It's Uhura and Hammer. Now, this relationship I did really, really, really love. I really did. And building this on screen, it was them talking about, Uhura was talking about, like, I still got to find myself and all that stuff. And Hammer was really supportive of Uhura and trying to sort of kind of encourage her and sort of kind of figured her out why she's moving on and sort of really the point of his message to Uhura, you know, is to kind of have her stay and make the friend she wants to. And I really did love that. And it really was such a good moment in my opinion. She does say she's gonna miss Hammer, and Hammer thinks that she's afraid of laying roots, meaning staying. And then he says, like, you create bonds, it's a gift. And then and just Hammer, all I can say, I had a note here, just wow, just absolute wow. All I can say, because I did once again really appreciate that, and it was quite a moment that was built from the previous episodes where these two were stuck in the cargo bay where they were attacked by the Gorn. And again, here they are facing another Gorn situation. So again, all of this stuff, how it ties in, I absolutely love it and enjoy it. And you can, again, the tone here is very dark, very, very grim. So I love that. Now back in Med Bay, Chapel was scanning the girl, and which her name is Rukia. Her name is Rukia. And there's the alien there sitting up there. It was also Chia, that ensign as well. Now, La'an comes in here. This is where, again, this is aggressive La'an. Is, why didn't you tell the captain about your eggs? Now, she said something that I might have missed, something about the eggs, and it could have saved everyone. And so she's implying that she knew that she was sick. Now, Mbenga actually stepped in between here and said, like, don't talk to my daughter like that. Like, what? When he said that, I just remembered from last episode. I'm not even sure if I'm fully sort of recovered from that, if I can say, because it was just, he says, actually stop harassing my daughter, and then says find somewhere else to be useful, which was really, wow. you can tell, and I loved how this is carried over. The fact that Mbenga is still grieving, really sad. Not I would say grieving, sorry. But in a sense, he still lost his daughter. But still, not going to be able to see her again unless he goes back to that nebula, that phenomenon. So I thought it was a good moment. Now, La'an actually informs Pike that the girl's been missing for 2 years, and she thinks that they're escapees from the breeding planet, or one of the breeding planets of the Gorn. So, again, you can tell that this is very Gorn-centric. La'an is going to take pointers because, of course, we know she escaped from one of his breeding grounds. And Mbenga comes in, and this moment when he was talking to her about, he got a little creative with his words and saying about something about songs, but he says he gets too, the emotion gets to us, and he's actually speaking about himself. But he also was saying that the message was kind of needs someone to kind of lean onto. And again, his tone just really sets, and I think speaks to why I actually like Mbenga, because it was really a good moment where, of course, he talks about his daughter, and just knowing Raki, she needs someone. She needs someone to kind of help her, I guess, is kind of what I got from this scene. And I thought it was beautiful. I really did. I'll say beautiful. But now this is the scene that we saw from the trailer where Spock kind of heard something, goes into the room, and it was just wind blowing through. Pike actually reaches, on his shoulder, and he's spooked a little bit. And this is the start of where now we're going to get a little bit more from Spock here, and I was not prepared for it. I really wasn't. So this shot, though, if you think about it, the original trio in TOS was who? Was, of course, Kirk, was, of course, McCoy, and Spock. I thought this was a little bit of an ode to that, because you had the captain, the doctor, and the science officer. So I like this. This is, I mean, of course, Pike's Peak. What? I really did. And it was just a good trailer. Now, there's Chapel finds the alien kind of breathing very heavily now. So we know what's happening. He's infected. So as she examines him, finds this like kind of weird thing on his arm, and then it's on his neck too, and it's like making sounds, and it's like, it's hard to explain, but just kind of blood vessel-y sound. Blood vessel-y, sure. And again, the alien's breathing heavy, and I was not prepared for this. Now, the girl actually recognized what was going on. She really did. And it was quite, man, Rihanna is her name, actually. Rihanna. I kept saying Rukia, but Rihanna knew what was going on. She knows that this alien was infected. So what does she do? She goes, hides off. Like, she just literally went to the next med bay down, and she just kind of hid there. Close her mouth. But then, of course, now the alien's screaming because something's about to happen. And what happens? Something literally bursts through him. Okay, what movie is this from? It's bursting from the back. We know what movie it is. Alien. So I felt like it was getting cues from that. But I literally, my eyes were, I was, wow. And her Chia's scream was, and unfortunately, she actually gets attacked too, and she dies. But like, this is this, like, look at these. There's something that comes out. Literally, baby Gorn. I'm laughing now because I'm seeing this, but when I was watching this last night, I was, wow, the moment, the music, and of course Chapel, because she called Chapel, but of course by the time Chapel gets here, she's dead. So we lost this officer here. This was supposed to be her last mission, and unfortunately we lost her. Of course, the alien is dead as well. Now, I loved this scene because they were actually showing these things running around, or trying to run around by moving certain things in the room. And this was the view. This is the view from the Gorn hatchling And again, I get Predator vibes. I'm just saying. So starts chasing Chapel. She runs up into one of these alcoves here and turns on the shield. So I thought that was pretty cool. Again, I'll say Chapel's acting in this, I love, superb. I 100%, I've said it before, love Chapel. This episode solidified that with how Chapel was acting this episode. Now, the last episode, 9, Elysian Kingdom, or 8, the Elysian Kingdom, she didn't have a lot of lines, really. This, it gave her a chance to shine, and I loved and enjoyed it. So he's there. Now, back here to Lieutenant Duke being treated by Mbenga. There's Sam, there's Spock, and Kirk. Or Kirk. Well, yeah, Kirk. Pike. Pike. Now, of course, Lieutenant Duke was actually sitting at the bottom of the Jeffries tube, and of course now he's going to get attacked. Unfortunately, yep, he gets attacked. I thought it was the sound. I had headphones on. The sound of it was pretty bad. So they try to blast it off of him. They hold him down. Spock is holding on to Lieutenant Duke, but it's too late. He gets literally dragged. Now, these things just got born. They were not bigger than a bloody chihuahua, like a rat or bunny. And they were able to drag this thing. I thought that was just the way they did this. And look at all the blood. They made it really gruesome. They really did. And again, it's focusing on Spock now. So Spock's looking at his hands because there's blood on it, right? He didn't let him go, but Duke slipped out of his hands. So this is going to play a part as we go on. Now back into the Medbay Chapel's there. She turns off the shield, actually looking for Ariana. And she's just kind of tiptoeing there. She's just being super, super careful. And she did such a great job to convey her fear. Just her breathing, her eyesight, the way she was speaking. I just loved it. I really did. Set the tone there. And La'an comes in, actually spooked at Chapel, goes to the body, and she's counting 4 hatchlings. Or I don't know how she got that, but sure. That she knows that there's 4. So again, La'an, it's for me, it's so funny how La'an was really just kind of on point in this episode for me. And again, I appreciate it. So La'an she arms Chapel with the gun, tells her you just shoot anything. So they gotta fight through this. And they gotta find the girl, and they do. Where do they find her? She's in one of the coldest places, because she knows that the Gorn don't like the cold, which now is sort of making sense because we'll turn that off now, because the crew left. They didn't get back, but they left because it was cold outside. But that's why they got stuck in the storm, and of course they got bloodied there. Now, sadly and unfortunately, we get another scene here of La'an's memory of her brother, because she was telling Rihanna that this happened to her. She lost her brother. But this moment again with La'an and the child is going to play a huge part here at the end, and I loved and enjoyed it. La'an's acting here was on point. I really thought it was on point, from being aggressive as a tactical officer to being someone who's protective and trying to take Mbenga's advice. I thought it was really good. Of course, says take my hand, and there she does. And I thought again, it was a good moment, and again, it's really going to play a lot of. It's going to pay off in the end. It really is, and it really just. All I can put here was wow, because you see another side of the actress here. Coming from episode 8 to this was a huge, just like 180. So I thought that was cool. Now you have back in engineering here, Uhura and Hemmer, and she said something, so we got power back and everything. It was really cool. Uhura said something that I thought I have to make a thing, and she says, Team Hemura strikes again. So Hemmer and Uhura. Team Hemura. I like that. I really do. Strikes again. Now they get the power on the ship. But before that, Hemmer gives her, the honor is yours, and then she does this sort of curtsy thing too. I thought it's such a good moment. It really is. And everything coming to sort of a full circle with these two. I quite enjoyed it, because remember, they got stuck in that cargo bay, and here they are again working together as a team. Team Himura. Yes. Power comes back on, and they hear something. That's not good. They hear a scream, and it's the clicking sound. The clicking sound is now apparent, which is, of course, what we know the Gorn makes. And Hammer says he actually smells blood, human blood. So that was not that was oof. That was oof when I heard that, because, well, of course, these things have been feeding on the crew. So it was pretty bad. And for the most part, it again set the tone of what's happening. Everyone, Uhura, everyone in this episode was on their A game. On their A game. Now, it goes back to this scene, which is weird, but we go back to here. Actually, Lon actually saved them by shooting the creature, and it was just, oh man, oof. And it was really just so much tension built up. Again, I will say again, to the music, it was just very good. Now, go back to the scene here with Sam. Sam felt like on edge. It just felt like he was really off here, but he was trying to be that one person in the group that's scared, but just trying to, it's sort of on edge. There you go. It's sort of on edge. But again, he's been missing it for a lot of episodes, so this was his time to shine. I couldn't connect him with as much, but I understand again why he was doing what he was doing. Again, back in the engineering room, it's screaming there. See, again, they are there just stuck there in engineering for now. Now we get to actually see the Gorn here, and it was that something dropped, and that's why Hammer turned around, and it was this Gorn feeding on the other Gorn. Okay, this Gorn was actually eating the other Gorn. Now apparently these things are going to fight for dominance, and until one is left, but they do not want to get a full-grown Gorn. Now, when I picture that, what do I see? TOS Gorn. They still, if I'm just going to separate myself, fan coming into Star Trek, this is going to make sense. But then you show me TOS, not going to make sense. So this is one of the reasons why, I'll be critical where I need to be critical. I don't like franchises going backwards, but it is what it is. So they see the Gorn there, about to spit some venom. Hammer actually gets in the way, so he is now hit with whatever this is, this venom, and apparently it's really painful. Then Lon comes in and saves them, and you see Chapel get all ready there with the girl. I loved, again, it wasn't too much over. The Gorn escapes there. Now, back in the med bay here, you had M'Benga, Spock, and Pike. Something about that this species is able to kind of really mass themselves. So I thought, to scans, to a lot of just your normal conventional way of scanning for things, and this is why the biofilters miss them. Now Hammer and them make it back to the crew. Now I'm glad that they're all back together now, so they made it back together to medbay. He's in pain. He says it hurts, so he's still okay. He's still up there moving. And of course, the only thing, so everything's in engineering is done. The last thing they need to get going is navigation. So you can see there again, he's hurt. I'm not sure if that was something that was open there, but their plan, of course, here is to, now again, Sam had a moment here where he was just sort of just off his rocker. He was kind of on edge. I didn't really necessarily like it. Not to say that it take down anything for this episode. I know why, and it's going to play again more into later, but they just have to have a plan, and that plan is to just, I guess, see, he actually gets pissed at Spock here because he's like, fascinating. He's like, fascinating? You saw Duke get eaten is fascinating. So again, he was just really, really on edge. Didn't like it too much. So La'an says the plan is this. Okay, they're gonna have to. Well, her actually said it is to kind of choke hold them, and what they're gonna do is drop the temperature and have them go to where they need to in order to defeat these Gorn. So Pike, Mbanga, and the little girl make it to the bridge. He restores everything to them, and then this scene here with Spock and Hemmer, he says something here that I thought was just so good. It was just so good, and I know that I can't give it justice, but when he says, and when we're talking about, you know, what's about to happen, man, so it really it really hits hard, and I think it speaks to how good the actors are, and I really thought that it was great in between the two. And he says, Hemmer says, he's willing to lay down his life for the crew, and we all know this, where this is going, and it hit me then. It didn't hit me then at that moment, but it hit me how he was saying, again, his deliverance of his lines, his tonality really sold it for me. It really did. Now, Chapel and La'an, of course, Chapel asks La'an, hey, are you okay? And she's like, I'm just really eager to fight the Gorn. Now, there's a Gorn vision shot here because it's of Uhura, and that clicking noise is there again. Tries to bait it out. She's running through, and to the point where Pike is going to activate something to sort of slow down, freeze down, drop the temperature of the room, and she makes a run to dash to where Sam is, and he makes a statement of, you really are good at everything. Now, seeing a Spock actually shooting, trying to get out the Gorn, he's actually on his own, sort of, not too far from where Sam is, and this is where it kind of goes a little weird for Spock, for me. And La'an actually communicates him to getting angry. He actually screams. He says something to himself and screams. So this again was from the trailer, and he let loose whatever it was with their Vulcan emotions. He just let it loose, and they're charging this staff, which is from the alien, and then, you know, Hemmer there actually sees that he's getting sort of flanked, and he gets actually pulled in the room by Sam. But when he did so, man, he looked like he was gonna beat Sam. He's like, it was just me. So what right now they're listening to is the two Gorn fighting over, and the plan is once the one Gorn kills the other, they're gonna go after that. So I thought, you know, again, the moments, the sounds, they did so good here in, again, setting the tone. And of course you have a shot there of Mr. Hemmer and saying everything is all good. Now La'an goes out. She had a pistol. She actually threw it and says, come fight me. Screams at it. And then of course there's a Gorn, comes out, is now getting chased, and she goes to where Hemmer is. Hemmer actually before this goes into this sort of container, and so does she. And of course she says, Hemmer, now what happens? A blast of ice, I guess, comes down onto the Gorn, the last Gorn, okay, and it's frozen. So you had that, then you had it just frozen, and she got mad, and what'd she do? Breaks it. Now again, what did I think of instantly in this moment after that? Terminator. When the liquid metal Terminator got frozen and then got smashed by a bullet. This time La'an did, and she screamed again. Props to La'an. Props 100% to La'an. Loved how she did this. Now Hammer comes out. He starts breathing heavy. And this is where it this is where it gets really, really bad. And unfortunately, Oof. He actually locked the engineering room before then so that no one can get in. So La'an says the venom is also the way that they reproduce. So unfortunately, this is, yeah, he did it on purpose so that no one can come in, and Hemmer's sacrificing himself for the crew. He does this. He does live long. Even if, okay, this is where even if I did not know the actor personally, the writing of this, the how it was delivered, music, callbacks, whatever you want to call it, this was a great moment for this character, Hemmer, who I loved and adored. And I really felt, to be honest, everyone's crying because they were saying, maybe we can slow it down. Even Mbenga was saying, Chapel was there. And, you know, he says, he had a good life. And, you know, do not weep for me. It's time for him to go. And it was really heart-wrenching. It really was. He gives her a last piece of advice just to reinforce what they were talking about there when they were in the engineering room, and it was heart-wrenching. I have to say that it was heart-wrenching for me. And to have a character, one of the main characters I thought was actually going to make it to season 2, I didn't even think there was going to be any deaths, to be honest with you. Here we are at episode 9, and now we lost a crew, but he sacrificed himself, and which he said he would, for the crew. And this episode really showed Hemmer's character even more so than the past any episodes he's been in. And I really, really enjoyed that. So again, everyone's crying. Chapel got me, man. When Chapel started going and he had to hold Uhura, man, that was such a good moment. And Hemmer is actually just making his way to the force field. Now he gets to the force field and he takes a, like, look at his smile, Captains. I'm sorry. Ooh, he's smiling. He's like, just like Doria, and he's just so happy. I really, man, you see him just standing there, and he sacrificed himself. He just jumped. He just jumped, and this is probably one of many feel oofs. I thought the last episode was an oof. This was an oof in a different way, which is, it's hard to compare them, the level of oofness. Does that make sense, Captains? But there he is. He leaps off, and it is from that cargo bay. It was below the actual shuttle bay there, and to see him, and again, that pulled away style to show the scale of how big the ship was, and it shows actually how far on the edge it was. He just jumped to his death. And that moment there that really got me. He did. And of course, her was crying. Of course, he lost her friend, and that's why I said all of the leading up to this point, the build up, the relationship building, and then this, you felt it. I think the writers of the show really did a good job in connecting certain relationships and then unfortunately closing them off. So I could do nothing but appreciate it. So next shot, you have the Enterprise actually towing the Peregrine, and it was just so busted up. But this scene, they're there in the briefing room, and you see, you know, when I saw that smile from Hemmer, it just it got to me. I'm not gonna lie, my face was leaking. And of course, we lost, of course, Ensign Chia and Lieutenant Duke. And Ortegas was actually making a speech, and she says, the best engineer I ever knew. And it was really good. Now, in between this, you know, Uhura was really speaking as well, saying that she, you know, Hemmer reminded her of her dad. And again, a moment that you can feel. I really felt that. Again, So the crew here just really very, very sad moment. Now, Nurse Chapel notices something. Actually, Spock and Chapel look at each other, and Spock is clenching his fist. Now, he actually leaves in like, he leaves, like, not just, you know, sort of quietly. No, he storms off. He storms off. Chapel goes after him. He actually punches the wall. This was, I don't know how I felt about this, but just the way that the relationship has been between these two, it was okay. Now, says, Nurse Chapel, don't follow me. He follows him, of course, and grabs her, like an intense grab. And he starts telling her that he can't control his emotions, and it's let it out. He's just losing it. And this moment here, when Chapel grabs Spock, says, you're just human. You're humans. You're human side. It was so good. And then the two hug. I mean, as much as I could not connect or cannot connect yet to Spock, which I have a little bit here and there, like I said, with the episode with, especially with T'Pring, this relationship dynamic between Chapel and Spock, I love it. I really do. It just shows like a deeper level. And of course, when they hug away, I thought that they were going to kiss. I really did, because you had that look in Chapel's eyes, and they were just that close. Of course, to Spock, it may not be anything at this point, but his emotions are out. Like that's what Sam. And this is where I understood why Sam was sort of showing that human emotion, which of course the Vulcans suppress, but he was sort of there to kind of express the human emotion side that he was trying to hold in. And when he let it go, because La'an said, "Let your emotions out," and he does that scream. It's leading to this, where he's just sort of emotionally compromised. That's kind of how I feel before when I broke up with my ex-girlfriend. What? So he storms off, and then now, next thing here, you have La'an in the room with Pike. I did not see this coming. So La'an's requesting a leap of absence, because what she wants to do is take the girl to her family, and just some dialogue about how weeks to lead, it's not good, but she is going to go with the girl. So this is La'an's exit. Now, even though Pike does say, "Come back to us, but take all the time you want," I think this is La'an's sort of exit from the show. And I will say, as much as I've had an up and down relationship with trying to connect with La'an, this sort of just puts a cherry on top, because she did so good in this episode for me personally. And she says, "Captain Chris, thank you." And I felt that it was a very heartfelt thank you. It really was, in my opinion. But and there Pike is just sort of just drinking. Now, I will say, I there wasn't that many Pikeisms in this episode, except his hair maybe, but even saying that, it was still very much Pike's crew. Like, at the end of the day, it was Pike's crew, because he still tied and set the tone fully. And again, I really did enjoy that. Of course, now we get the scene of her. I think she has actually made the decision to stay, or is going to make the decision to stay. She's looking over to the console there, the communications console, where I believe is going, which is from the trailer, but now it doesn't, I don't know what happened to the other communications officer, but maybe she was, I don't know, gone now. But this is where it's sort of leaves off with her looking at that station, and again, I think taking the advice she got from Hemmer to heart, really. And it just leaves off on that scene, and it's, I've said it before, this is such a good series, and this one hit pretty hard for me as well. I can't say where I can rank it now that we're at the end of this review / reaction, but I know that this episode was just it was up there. I don't know where to rank it. Maybe that's what we'll do once we do the episode 10 ranking, is to do an episode ranking from 1 to 10, and maybe I'll figure it out. But between this and the last episode, this had feels, but it was a different type of feels with more thriller, grimness. There was True Death, Hemmer. I appreciate the fact that all of them were here, but now you look at this picture, we have now lost Hemmer, and we have now lost maybe La'an, because she's going to be with a girl. So we all know from this crew, the only ones that are supposed to remain, sort of, is Uhura, Spock, and Chapel for a bit. So what episode 10 is going to do, I'm not sure. I really thought it was going to sort of start a Cybok thing, because again, in the last episodes there, a few episodes back, or a Cybok. So maybe episode 10 is going to close it off on the Cybok sort of teaser there that they showed us. I don't know anymore. This episode took me round and round into a pool of feels that I'm still recovering from, Captains. But I will say this with utmost conviction: I love Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Let me say that again. I love Star Trek Strange New Worlds. We're 9 episodes in. None of them have been bad. Yes, I've ranked 2 as the sort of the last one, but it doesn't mean it's bad. All of these episodes, it felt like it's just getting better and better, even though they're self-contained, but there was still some arching of stories from beginning episodes, like this one with Hemmer and Uhura. But you had almost everyone here shine. You had everyone shine. Uhura, Ortegas, Spock, Hemmer with his dad, Pike, Una, Chapel, La'an leaving, and then of course M'Benga with that moment of him slipping up and saying my daughter. It's just so, for me, I know a lot of people are going to say they don't like the new track. People are going to say it's written bad. I don't really care about you guys. This, for me, is great. And like I said, we're going to finish the reviews. I enjoy doing these. It makes me watch the episode twice. I don't care. I love it. So, Captains, I highly recommend watching Strange New Worlds if you're just kind of watching this on a whim, going through YouTube. It's a great series to me. I highly recommend it. And this episode, I can't rank yet. I can't even rank 8 yet. So once we watch episode 10, we'll do a review, and then we'll probably do our ranking then, or maybe an episode where or video that we do the ranking then. But all around, this episode was just absolutely fantastic. 100%. Huge shout out to Silver Metal Tavern, who is the assistant editor, worked on this episode specifically. So 9, one of the 2. We're going to actually have him on the bridge, Captains. As of this recording, June 30, we're going to have him on the bridge Sunday. So look up for more details on that. And we're going to talk Stranger Worlds. We're going to talk Star Trek. We're going to get to know, and through him, see what experiences we can live through him. But Captains, I love Strange New Worlds. This episode, I can't rank, like I said, but I can't wait to see episode 10, and then I can't wait to kind of just sit down and talk it all with my fellow Captains, either here on the YouTube bridge or on the Twitch bridge. But Captains, like the video, comment below, subscribe to the YouTube bridge, and know that we are going to finish this whole review reaction to the first season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And with that, we'll leave it on this.
Live long and prosper.